asking a question to you, very simple one, as we sit here awaiting an announcement from Dan Quinn, probably on Friday, of whether or not Jayden Daniels will start at quarterback for the team. Not in the regular season, that we already know, but in the preseason. And our question is, should he? 301-230-0980 is the Team 980 listener line. Let's get things started with Mark. Mark, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show. Should Daniels play on Sunday?
Well, I think that definitely he should play. And first of all, thank you for taking my call. I think that he should play. I think that you have a whole new system. You got a whole new quarterback. He needs as much work as he can get to develop the timing with the receivers. So, absolutely, I think he should play. Personally, I don't think I'm sad that he's playing at all this season. I like to see you carry a clipboard. I would have liked Jacoby Brissett to stick around for another year. Don't put the rookie under that much pressure, but it is what it is.
Hold on, Mark. I have to ask. Like, I understand having that opinion in April when you drafted him and haven't seen him yet. But what that you've seen from Jayden Daniels makes you think that he needs more reps or to even not play this year? That's where I think you lose me a little bit.
Okay, well, I think that we're looking at a rookie who has yet to see his first real NFL action. The offensive line is still leaky. It's uncertain. And that's the big thing. You know, we got a great commodity. We saw what he could do. I wouldn't want to put a valuable piece for the future at risk like we did with RG3. So I just think that carrying a clipboard for a year is extremely valuable for him.
Okay. Thanks for calling, Mark. I appreciate. I think Mark's opinion is one that a lot of people have. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it's, I'm not gonna desecrate it. I just vehemently disagree and think it's a fundamental misunderstanding of where we are. And I also understand, I am sensitive to the scarring that Washington football fans have from the Robert Griffin III experience. Jayden Daniels could not be farther from Robert Griffin III as a player or how he approaches the game. Jayden has approached this entire process with humility, with seriousness, with all the things that you want. Robert, frankly, approached it like he was anointed king of the world. And that approach and the entitlement that came with it led to a lot of on-field problems. Now, I'm not trying to relitigate that, nor am I trying to put it all on Robert, because clearly the person who anointed him, the former owner, that guy had a lot of problems. That was one of them. The way that the coaching staff handled it, I do not think was optimal, but Robert, as a young person, did not handle that well either. But as players, Jayden is someone who processes very quickly, gets the ball out, understands the offense on a fundamental level. And an offense, by the way, that is catered in a lot of ways to him and is run by a guy in Cliff who is known for making things extremely easy on the quarterback. Kyle does that in a very different way, and it's a way that didn't necessarily work with what Robert or where Robert was as a player at the time. Clearly, Kyle is one of the best coaches and one of the most quarterback-friendly coaches in the history of the sport, nevertheless in the league currently. But he's also more advanced in that than he was a decade ago when he was the offensive coordinator here in Washington. So I think that when you look at Jayden, the offensive line part, one, I think it's overstated. Two, they understand it and will insulate him. And three, if your whole thing is he hasn't gotten real NFL reps yet, why wouldn't you want to get him those NFL reps? You don't get them by osmosis. He's got to go out there. So I fundamentally disagree with the points made there, because I think it misrepresents where we are with Jayden Daniels in the progression and what we've seen from him, what we know about him compared to maybe what you might have thought when he was drafted or about a generic rookie quarterback, the idea of one versus the specifics of Jayden Daniels. 301-230-0980. Should Jayden Daniels play on Sunday? Let's go to John. John, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, man. How you doing?
I'm good, John.
No, I don't think he should play. Not it's just my call. I don't understand why we keep trying to put people in a bubble wrap to play a contact sport. Okay, I don't think he should play because I think I've seen enough. When somebody says to me, "Well, he hasn't faced real NFL," what are you talking about? What have we been doing in the preseason, the practice? This is what you do. You face live bullets. You've already done it. Okay, so now you hold on to this a franchise quarterback, which we haven't had here in a long time. I'm 65 years old. I've seen the bad times, I've seen the good times, and I've seen just the terrible times. I'm ready to see the good times again, and you start by letting this guy learn to play. He plays the game. You play the game. You adjust the game to him. With the offensive line and running back, you run some more. You just do a whole lot of different things. But sitting him on the sideline means absolutely nothing. It's just a waste of time. For the last preseason game, sit him down. He's good. We've seen enough. Come on, let's get ready to go to the 16-game season and see what we got to do. Stop it, people. Stop the crazy. Stop the crazy.
John, Hall of Fame call. Thank you. And John hung up on himself. I didn't even have to click John off the line to get to folks who were next lined up on the Team 980 listener line. Yeah, I mean, I agree with basically everything that John said. He's eventually got to go do it. And I do think that, like, in fairness to other folks with differing opinions, he hasn't faced real NFL talent yet. Like, when he faced the Jets in the preseason game, the ones where they could hit him, unlike the joint practice where it didn't go great in the rain and they couldn't hit him, like Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner weren't out there. And that big play that he hits to De'Ami Brown down the sideline probably isn't complete against Sauce Gardner because Sauce Gardner's ridiculous. Against the Dolphins, he's not facing Jalen Ramsey, for instance, and their other top players. So he hasn't faced a true NFL caliber defense. I still think the toughest defense he's probably ever faced in his life was Alabama last year. And that both is in talent potentially because what Saban had built is insane, but also, in terms of complexity, it's very, very simple. Base cover 2, base cover 1, very simple disguises. Like, you're not getting these junk amoeba coverages. You're not getting some of the zone match. You're not getting what it's like to play real NFL quarterback in the preseason. You are getting some of that in joint practices, for sure. And you are getting some of that in your own practices, for sure. And Jayden has played very well, which is why ultimately I come down where John did to say, I've seen enough. And I don't think that the reps you're going to get on Sunday are going to advance his cause anymore. But what you think? 301-230-0980. Let's go to Kevin. Kevin, thanks for holding. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I think the question is he ready? Has he made all the audibles? Has he interpreted all the coverages? There's one thing that he hasn't done, which you're going to laugh at, but I'm serious about. He hasn't learned to slide. And I know that sounds like, he can learn that in practice, but at game speed, he's got to get in the habit of getting down when he has to get down, because that's going to really determine his season.
Okay, so Kevin, hold on. I'm not gonna laugh. Hold on. I promise I'll let you go for more in a second. I'm not gonna laugh at that because I know it's a concern for a lot of people. I'm just gonna kind of debunk it because the biggest hits that quarterbacks take are in the pocket. That's part one. Part two, Jayden Daniels doesn't need to learn to slide because he knows how already. He needs to practice it more often, not practice it. He needs to do it more often. His game awareness needs to become higher, but he has a ton of examples from the time he was in high school, especially when he gets to Arizona State, and then at LSU, where he does slide or dive or get down in the open field. But he's not going to learn to do that in practice. He doesn't run in practice. He's got to get into the games and understand the speed of the game and where the pursuit is coming from and get that experience. And then, yes, I and they and he would like to see him protect himself more. But when you're out running the football, you know you can get hit. When you're in the pocket, you're thinking about other stuff. You're not protecting yourself in that way. You're reliant on the offensive line and the scheme and everything else to protect you. So the biggest hits he's going to take are when he gets blasted under the chin strap because a blitzer runs free and he gets the ball out in time and there's not a damn thing he can do about it. Not when he's running out in the middle of the field and dudes are chasing him, swiping at his shoelaces.
Well, all I'm saying is the ultimate question here is the Buccaneers are going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at him. And when the real bullets are flying, is he prepared for that? That's what the coaches are paid for to determine. So I'm not going to question whether he should start or not. They might think he might need a few more reps just on a couple of things. Who knows? But and you got to balance out with whether he's going to get hurt or not. But that's the question. Is he ready for what they're going to throw at him game one so that his confidence is there, and that
Definitely.
he doesn't make mistakes and stuff. So that's the ultimate question.
For sure. And that's kind of what we've been saying this entire time it's a test of where he is versus what he gets out of it. And if they think he can get something out of it and that he's not quite ready, I will not question them because they have that understanding. I happen to think, based off what I've seen, he looks real ready. And I also think that New England's probably not going to throw anything out there that is going to add to his experience bank in a meaningful way that prevents some kind of bad thing happening. Not like injury, but bad throw, bad decision happening in the regular season. 301-230-0980, the Team 980 listener line, where we're asking you, should Jayden Daniels play in the preseason finale? By the way, this is what Dan Quinn said earlier in the week when he was asked about said thing.
We can probably hit more on that like towards the end of the week on Friday. So we're going to do 2 practices against ourselves, Wednesday and Thursday, and then we'll begin the New England prep onto that as we go. But I thought today, Nikki, enough. I just gave you the starting quarterback guy.
I appreciate that. You're
take him with both hands right now. Jeez. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, we'll talk through all the team next week, and I'll have a better answer for you guys on Friday.
Dan Quinn featuring Nikki Javala there on Monday after DQ named Jayden the starter. So it sounds like they're going to have a ones-on-ones, good-on-good, use this week as like the final training camp practices. And Dan's talked about this as well. It's the final install periods as well, so they're getting the rest of the offense, the rest of the defense in, and that is a big focus for them this week. And then I guess next week they kind of review and then get everybody ready for week one. But should Jayden play in the regular season after doing all that work this week with the ones? 301-230-0980. Let's go to JT. JT, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Thank you for having me, Craig. And to answer the question, absolutely not. Unless there was a world where we knew New England were going to have their one plan, that, like you guys said in the previous call, it says absolutely nothing that JD gets out of playing on Sunday. So I would sit him, let him get ready for Tampa and all that Bowles is going to throw at him down there. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, JT, for the call. And that I agree. Unless you're going to get something new out of it, if it's just going to be another preseason game against a vanilla defense, I'm not that interested. 301-230-0980. Cliff, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, what's going on, Craig? I know a lot of coaches won't do it, but he only had a little bit of work against 2 teams, and it is preseason. We're trying to get this man ready for Tampa. He should play. It's not like he's going to play the whole game. He just play a couple of series or maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 series, then take him out because he's going to have a 2-week layoff, and it'll also give him a chance to get a feel for the field out at Commander Stadium so that if they need to do adjustments at FedEx early in the season, instead of him going the whole season when he play at FedEx, the field all messed up and stuff like that. And I'll sit back and listen.
All right, Cliff, thanks for the call. I do think that the rhythm part of it, whatever at Commander Stadium is going to be the artist formerly known as FedEx Field. Yes, it is called Commanders Field now. If you missed that this summer, FedEx no longer the sponsor, so Commanders Field. But it's not like Jayden's going to be like, hey, I want the grass shorter. Like, he doesn't – that's not how that works. The field has been terrible in Landover for a long time, and I'm hoping that Josh Harris and company have spent more money on it so they have quality turf and dudes aren't getting messed up on it. Like, that's not it. And my other thing that I know people are saying a thing that sounds like the thing you're supposed to say, but once you look at it for 5 seconds, here's the thing nobody seems to be able to answer that wants him to play is, we got to get him ready. Does he not look ready? I don't know what Jayden Daniels y'all have been watching, but the one that I have seen, not only in the preseason games, where many of you have obviously watched, but as someone who has gone to a lot of training camp practices, and this is also something that we will talk about with JP Finley, who has been to even more training camp practices coming up at 5 p.m., is what have we seen that we want to, like, what have we seen from him that suggests that he's not ready? And you could say, oh, well, he hasn't done a lot of true drop back yet. You think they're going to drop him back for real against a Patriots defense? No. Because either, like, it's just, like, you're doing it against inferior competition because they're not going to play their ones, or they're playing their ones, and now all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's drop him back and expose him to mega hits. Hey, the guy we want to start at left tackle is not available. Cornelius Lucas is out there. Blindside, 5-step drop, Jayden, let's go. We're not doing that. That's insane. So the stuff that we haven't seen yet, we haven't seen it for a reason. They're not going to do it in the preseason. It's not worth the risk. And so what is it exactly that we're trying to get out of this that you haven't seen that suggests he's not ready to take that next step? And by the way, don't forget, they're seeing more than we are in terms of the practices and what he's doing in the meeting room and the understanding. And he's doing VR reps, I'm sure, as well, and getting some of the mental banking that way. 301-230-0980. Let's go to Anthony. Not that Anthony, the Anthony on the phone. Anthony on the phone, you're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, Hoffman, thanks for taking my phone call. I agree with you. There's no way we should possibly play Jayden Daniels. He's already shown everything we need him to do. Why risk injury? We are not that team that has the luxury to get cute to send our franchise quarterback out for a third meaningless preseason game. And plus, I'm going to Tampa week 1, so I definitely want to see him healthy there. Thanks for taking my call. Have a great night.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, Anthony. That's funny. That's and I think sometimes Anthony in the producer studio, not Anthony on the phone, people get confused because, like, if you have a ticket for this weekend, you want to see Jayden Daniels. And I'm not going to lie. I would rather watch Jayden Daniels Sunday night from my couch because I'm not going out there. I thought about it, especially after they announced that Josh Harris is hosting a preseason media availability on Sunday. But I'm not gonna make the drive to Landover. I'll be watching from my couch, and I'd rather watch Jayden Daniels play. I guarantee you, by the way, this game was scheduled as Sunday Night Football because they thought it would be Jayden Daniels versus Drake Maye. But guess what? Your personal / our personal entertainment value doesn't override the needs of the franchise. And the small burst of joy that we would get from watching Jayden Daniels play football on Sunday is not worth the large burst of joy that we get from seeing him hopefully play and play well for real. Last word on this goes to Anthony in the producer studio. Anthony, would you play Jayden Daniels on Sunday? I say last word, second to last word. I get the last word. My name's on the show.
I would not. I think they're more than likely, again, I think you mentioned it earlier, have him just do, a serious walkthrough, like his warm-up for, like, every game, and then, like, just tell him he's not going to play. Or they'll just tell him you're not playing this weekend. Yeah, go through the warm-up.
Yeah, when players don't play, like when they're going to be inactive, they go through a pregame workout because they need to get the movement in. They need to practice. Like, it's essentially a practice.
Yeah.
And so he'll go through, I would imagine, the warm-up drills and all that kind of stuff. But then he's not going, like, he'll take a shower before the game and then go put on a nice little Commander's t-shirt, put his little earpiece in, and say, "Go, Jeff Driscoll!" But you don't have to, you can go through the whole routine without actually playing ball.
Yeah. And I just feel as though there's nothing meaningful that we're going to get from this game, to be honest, in general. So I just wouldn't even put him out there. I don't think it's worth the risk.
Yeah.
And also you just have, other players that you have to evaluate, and maybe we should be focusing on that.
Yeah, and we will for the rest of the week for sure. I think with the quarterback position, like, you know what it is. Driscoll's gonna start and play the most. Mariota's not playing with the groin issue, and then Trace. Well, I guess we'll see if Sam Hartman's back, but I tend to think that it's gonna be Jeff Driscoll for the first half, maybe even 3/4 of Jeff Driscoll, and then Trace McSorley, depending on how much evaluating they want to do of guys down roster. Because Driscoll, that's the other thing, right? Is Driscoll's good enough to give you a look on everybody else. I don't need to see Jayden Daniels out there to get a look on Jahan Dotson. For preseason purposes, Jeff Driscoll's just fine. Marcus Mariota would have been just fine. Trace McSorley, okay, maybe there's an argument there that we need to see certain things, and we don't think that a dude who's been here for a week and a half can operate the offense.
Yeah.
But even then, like, is that worth the risk to your starting quarterback? Probably not. You've had enough snaps in practice and joint practices and other preseason games that you don't do that in the final regular season game. And ultimately, it comes down to, I think, to this. People who say the two arguments for playing him are really with one argument with kind of two prongs. He's not ready because we need to see something. And people can't give an example of when he doesn't look ready, and they can't name the thing that they want to see from him that's going to be attainable in a preseason game against not a starting caliber defense talent-wise, and certainly not a schemed-up defense X's and O's wise. So at that point, seems like a fairly logical conclusion that not playing is the right move.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.